Welcome back to Wash Talk, the Carwash Podcast. I'm your host, Rich DiPaolo, and joining me today is Sean Lichterman, consultant for Cost Segregation Services Inc. Sean, welcome to Wash Talk.
Yeah, hi, Rich. Thank you for having me as a guest today on the Wash Talk Podcast.
Absolutely. So you and I got to talking not too long ago, and you explained a strategy that operators can use to really maximize their tax benefits, and it's through the use of a cost segregation study, right?
Correct. Yep, absolutely correct.
So before we go into those details, Sean, and how operators can use this strategy, why don't you first share a little bit more background on yourself and how you got started working with professional car washes?
Yeah, that's a great jumping off point, Rich. So my background, actually prior to cost segregation, stems in tech and healthcare sales. That's where I initially got my pedigree. Now, I started my cost seg career on the referring side for many years. My dad has actually been in cost segregation for the last 12 years. So when a client of mine would expand or purchase a new location, I would tee up cost segregation by simply asking, did you receive your accelerated tax estimate yet? To which most would reply, never heard of it. I would then explain the tax benefits like my dad to handle the rest. And as they say, the rest is history. So being on the referring side for many years, I've made a transition to a full-time approach now in cost seg. As you said, I represent CSSI, Cost Segregation Services. It's one of the largest engineering-based cost seg firms in the U.S. And when you perform as many cost seg studies as we have, you tend to notice a trend that specific properties can produce greater tax savings compared to others. Car washes happen to fall in that Goldilocks zone of maximum tax savings, anywhere from 60 to 100%. So other than car washes being a great investment opportunity for cost seg, they're also fantastic candidates for cost seg, which is why I enjoy working in this particular niche.
Are there any other markets or industries that benefit from a cost segregation study that you've worked with?
Yes, actually all commercial properties. So ranging from short-term rentals to office buildings, warehouses, you name it. If it's a commercial property, cost seg is a fantastic opportunity for you. As we get into this, we'll showcase why why car washes and gas stations tend to be the leaderboard in greatest tax savings.
All right, yeah, let's get into that a little bit. Why don't you discuss the purpose of a cost segregation analysis?
Yeah, so the main purpose is to significantly reduce tax liability on commercial properties. In a few words, that's the ideology of cost seg. Now, to expound on that thought a little bit further, cost seg is an IRS-approved tax planning strategy that accelerates depreciation on commercial properties by segmenting components within the building into 5, 7, and 15-year asset classes. So that's where the cost segregation part comes from. So a quick example would be, say you purchase or reconstruct a commercial property. The entire cost of that property is typically depreciated over 27 and a half or 39 years, right? So this is known as straight line depreciation. I'm sure all property owners know of this concept. So cost seg is the adverse of that. It allows you to identify and separate those certain components of the property that have shorter depreciable lives. So think lighting fixtures, carpeting, electrical wiring, etc. So most non-structural items that will not last the entire 39 years will qualify. So when you do this, you can depreciate those components over a shorter period of time, which allows you to deduct more depreciation in the early years as a property owner. So this results in increased cash flow, reducing your tax liability. That's why I tell my clients you can either 1, purchase more property, 2, renovate, or 3, take a trip around the world with your tax savings. It's your money, keep more of it.
Who wouldn't love a trip around the world, right?
Right.
So talking about car wash operators and the car wash industry specifically, how do car wash operators benefit from a cost segregation study? And is it only applicable to newly purchased properties?
Well, that's a great question. So first off, car wash operators can benefit from cost seg studies in a couple of ways. The first one, the kind I touched upon, right? So it accelerates depreciation in certain components in the facility. When we're specifically looking at car washes, think the car washing equipment like plumbing, lighting, the landscaping that's true to car washes. They tend to be mainly composed of those 5, 7, and 15-year asset class components compared to other commercial buildings. So that's why car washes tend to carry more of a tax savings, averaging between that 60 to 100% of reclassification. Now, I've kind of said this term a couple of times. So reclassification, the definition of it, it's the amount identified for accelerating depreciation. So think, for example, like a tunnel type car wash, you purchase it for $1 million. If it identifies for 100% reclassification, an owner can then maximize the entire purchase amount within the first year. That's a significant write-off, as you can see just in our example. $1 million tunnel type qualifies for 100% reclass. That whole $1 million is being accelerated in the first year.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to learn a little bit more about why the car wash business is uniquely positioned to benefit most from these analyses. Is there something inherent in that business or that industry that make it an ideal candidate for this?
Yeah, well, car washes tend to have a lot of wear and tear, right? Requiring frequent repairs and replacements. And there's a lot of specialized equipment within the property. So more specialized equipment within a property tends to lead to more identified components that can be accelerated. Mainly because this type of equipment is just not built to last for 39 years. So think of high pressure water systems, specialized brushes, drainage systems, signage. These are not equipped to last 39 years within the car wash industry. So that's why they're easily identified in those 5, 7, or 15 categories, which then can be accelerated in shorter life expectancies.
Okay, and I didn't mean to interrupt your previous response. Did you have anything else to add on if this is just applicable to newly purchased properties?
Yes, actually. So I had another part to that as well. Something known as bonus. So bonus depreciation was born from the Tax Cut and Jobs Act era of 2017. So this established that those commercial properties who have those 5, 7, and 15-year asset class components can now take 100% of that depreciation within year one. So not having to draw it out of the 5, 7, or 15 year, but now you can take that all in year one. So starting this year, that benefit is actually phasing out to a reduction of 20% each year. So this year you'd have 80% bonus depreciation. It's going to trickle off as the years go on. But that's why we find so many existing properties can still benefit from cost seg purely because of that bonus depreciation. To wrap this up, you can see the significant tax savings that is ever present in the car wash industry. And that's why no matter whether you're a property that was purchased this year, last year, even as far back as 7, 8, almost 10 years ago, you can still benefit from the tax savings of cost seg because of this bonus depreciation amount.
It's good to know, for sure. Now, do you have a case study or a recent example? I know you sent one to me that was redacted, and I appreciate that, but you gave me an example of the breakdown and what all this involves. So is there somewhere that our visitors can go to see like a case study or a recent example? You could also throw in your email address if they wanted to reach out to you specifically, but where could our visitors go to see how this all works out?
Yeah. So first off, I offer no cost, non-committal tax estimates. So if you have, I can actually give you your own estimate or case study, if you will, just by reaching out. There's only 4 criteria that I need. First one being the purchase date of the property, purchase price, address, and then any renovations, the amount that's gone into that property. And then I can turn around in about 24 hours a pretty specific estimate to what you can anticipate to receive once the final study is done. You can also reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn, Sean Lichterman, or my phone number, 224-814-3174. So also great question. If I can share a quick case study. So actually, this is a client of ours that we just facilitated a study for recently. This is a tunnel type car wash. As you can see, it was purchased in November of 2022. So in between that Tax Cut and Jobs Act era. So that's why you'll see on this estimate, they qualify for 100% bonus. Now, how we get these numbers, the building cost is going to be the purchase price less land, right? We cannot depreciate land. And then we can add in renovations. So for this particular property, I think there's about $1.5 million in renovations towards this car wash. So that's how we get this net building cost. So we'll call it $3.6 million. So that amount is what is qualifying for cost segregation. Now, again, straight line method, everyone I'm sure is familiar with that. We take this number, divide it by the 39 years, which gives us our number here. This particular property was purchased in November, so there's only 2 remaining months in the calendar year to receive depreciation on it. But as a yearly figure, it's probably more like 95,000 depreciating. But let's look at the alternative method in cost seg. So we see the 5, 15, and our 39 year. So once again, car wash tunnels in specific, they just do not hold 39-year asset class categories because of the specialized components that go into those tunnel type car washes. They mainly qualify that 5 and 15-year asset class components, and that's why we see this 100% bonus figure matches the exact building cost. So you tell me where you can find anywhere in terms of ROI where I can purchase a building and then almost 100%, or actually in this case, 100% write off that purchase amount to then offset my tax liability. That's why this is a fantastic tax reducing strategy. Once again, preferred by the IRS, it's honored by them. And as we can see, this particular client saved themselves about $1.3 million on this purchase. The cost seg study fee was $5,500. So again, from an ROI standpoint, 247 to 1, quite great returns. I'm not sure if you can find that in the stock market. Maybe Vegas if you're willing to gamble that. But this is why I love working with car washes. We always have happy clients. We never come back and say, "Oh, I wish I would have had saved more." And typical for most car wash operators that I see, they tend to purchase more than just one car wash facility. So you can see this is what just catalysts that growing by purchasing, offset your tax liability, frees up cash flow, go buy more, go renovate, take a trip around the world. That's it in a nutshell. Cost seg.
1.3 million in savings, Sean. I'd say you take a couple of trips around the world, maybe even bring a group of friends, right? So
Exactly.
looking good. Hopefully we can spread that awareness and show operators that these tax savings are possible if they didn't already know a cost segregation service existed. So I appreciate your time, Sean, for taking the time today to explain some of these details and how such a strategy and analysis can help car wash operators out there. And again, thanks for doing this interview with carwash.com.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Rich. And thank you for having me again as a guest on the Wash Talk podcast. I hope this information was insightful for your viewers. And again, if you're a car wash operator, you've not received your tax savings benefit from a cost segregation analysis, I invite you to reach out. I can present to you a no-cost, non-committal estimate and see that this makes sense for you.